Welcome to the Carpathians. I am anxiously expecting you.
2 days ago, we started off our Vampire Month with Nosferatu, the 1922 unlicensed German adaptation of Dracula. Bram Stoker's widow Florence was anonymously alerted by a letter, and a German high court demanded that all copies of Nosferatu be destroyed. And they were, except one that resurfaced in America in 1929. It wasn't perfect, it was missing some frames, but it was in good enough condition to be watchable. The popularity around Nosferatu's American premiere led Universal Pictures to decide to adapt Bram Stoker's 1897 novel too. And 2 years later, Universal Pictures released Todd Browning's Dracula starring Bela Lugosi. The popularity of Dracula led Universal on a kind of early Marvel Cinematic Universe thing for monster movies. The Monster Cinematic Universe, I guess. Frankenstein, Bride of Frankenstein, Son of Frankenstein, the Wolfman, Frankenstein meets the Wolfman and the Invisible Man, Daughter of Dracula, Phantom of the Opera, Creature from the Black Lagoon, House of Dracula, House of Frankenstein, where Frankenstein, Dracula, and the Wolfman and the Hunchback of Notre Dame all meet, like the Avengers or something. Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein, where Dracula is trying to find a brain to put in Frankenstein's monster. Abbott and Costello meet the Invisible Man, Abbott and Costello meet the Mummy, and on and on and on. In 1958, the British director Terence Fisher did a Dracula remake starring Christopher Lee.
Who has done this thing? Who has done this thing?
Bringing the story home to London rather than having a fake England on the Universal lot. Although there had been an aristocratic, and some would say queer-coded, sensuality to Bela Lugosi's captivating performance in 1931, it's Christopher Lee with his deep voice and British spy charisma who's credited with bringing a real sexual undertone to his Count Dracula. Although interestingly, Christopher Lee is famous for not saying much dialogue as Dracula, as the screenplays weren't usually up to his standards. The Christopher Lee Dracula brought red contacts, wooden stakes, and the fangs we know as Dracula's calling cards to the performance. This type of sensuality, more raw and charismatic than what Bela Lugosi had gone with, and the most different possible interpretation of what Max Schreck did in Nosferatu, stuck with Count Dracula. In 1979, Universal Pictures entered their remake period, with John Badham of Saturday Night Fever fame making his own version of Dracula. Starring Frank Langella as Dracula and Laurence Olivier as Van Helsing, this aimed to make Dracula into more of a love story, even using the tagline, a love story. Frank Langella said, "I didn't want Dracula to appear stilted or stentorian or authoritarian. I wanted to show a man who, while evil, was lonely and could fall in love." The 1970s was a bit of a renaissance for the vampire genre. In 1979, Werner Herzog also released his own remake of Nosferatu, returning to the name Dracula rather than Count Orlok, and replacing all the names chosen to get around German copyright law to the originals, but keeping Nosferatu's vampire as a horrible, corpse-like, ugly Strigoi. Klaus Kinski, Bruno Gantz, and Isabelle Adjani starred in the synthesized Dracula Nosferatu remake. Christopher Lee also returned more than once, announcing in 1970 an intention to make the most accurate Dracula adaptation yet. 8 years later, Christopher Lee and Jesus Franco released Count Dracula, and their adaptation in Old Dracula features on young women to stay young-looking. Christopher Lee would play Dracula 10 times, eventually coming to hate the role. In the 1980s, nobody really bothered to make another Dracula movie. I guess now Americans didn't see bloodsuckers as evil in the age of Reaganomics. Now we come to our movie tonight, Francis Ford Coppola's Bram Stoker's Dracula. The 1992 adaptation owes its colossal presence on the screen to Godfather Part 3.
Just when I thought I was out, they pulled me back begin.
Winona Ryder was supposed to play Mary Corleone, but had a nervous breakdown right before shooting and collapsed. She had to back out of the shooting, which led to the now infamous casting of Sofia Coppola, Francis Ford Coppola's daughter, in an emergency casting decision. Since famously that was a debacle, Winona Ryder healed up and then came back to Francis Ford Coppola's office to make amends and to explain what had happened. Convinced that Coppola hated her, she carried an olive branch, a screenplay that she had just read from James V. Hart, the screenwriter behind Hook. Bram Stoker's Dracula. Briefly glancing down, Francis Ford Coppola's eyes lit up. He loved Dracula and had always wanted to adapt it. This film combines many of the things I've mentioned in this intro. Gary Oldman plays the lonely, eccentric, sensual Count Dracula, who is a 430-year-old vampire of the Order of the Dragul, an ancient Transylvanian nobleman who fought the Ottoman Turks to save Christendom. He returns home to find out that his wife, Elizabetha, played by Winona Ryder, has committed suicide after falsely learning of his death in battle. Enraged, Vladdy Daddy renounces God, stabbing the cross and drinking the blood, turning him into a vampire. Bram Stoker's Dracula is both decadent and extremely horny. We skip to 1897, where a rotting Vlad is still moping around his castle. He decides to buy a new home in London, first having Tom Waits' Renfield come as a real estate agent before turning him into a crazy slave. Then the real estate office sends Jonathan Harker, played by Keanu Reeves, with probably the most uneven British accent I've ever heard. It's a bit incredible. Keanu Reeves is engaged to Mina, also played by Winona Ryder. After seeing her picture and how much it looks like his former wife, Dracula leaves Harker to be sucked dry by his three wives, one of whom is Monica Bellucci. Dracula heads to London to try to win and seduce Mina. Fighting her best friend, who's three goofy suitors, one of whom is mental asylum owner Dr. Sword. They don't really like that, so they contact Dr. Sword's former teacher Van Helsing, played by Anthony Hopkins in all his glory. Gary Oldman's Dracula is pretty impressive. He's young, he's old, he's a wolf man. He's almost comically corpse-like while old, but upon falling in love, he becomes a virile young man bent on seducing Mina. The set design in dark reds and blacks is beautiful. Coppola, in an eerily familiar move, was determined not to use CGI effects and hired a special effects team, who told him what he wanted to do would be impossible. He'd only get what he was asking for by digital effects. So he fired the special effects team and hired his son, Roman Coppola, to supervise visual effects.
Given that the book Dracula was written around 1900, being the same date as the birth of the cinema, and not only that, but the birth of the cinema coming out of magicians and illusions and basically magic tricks, I thought that I would not only make the film entirely in a false place, in a studio, but I would only use effects done as they would have been done in 1900.
I have not been getting what I've been asking for. I have been asking for shadows and illusion and double impositions and
It's all done in camera with multi-layered shots, changes of perspective, mechanical effects, and stage magic. However, unlike with his latest work, Coppola was determined to be on time and on budget. But this promise hit snags. First, Winona Ryder and Gary Oldman had a mysterious sudden falling out on set and couldn't stand to work together. Winona tried to leave as soon as principal photography was done. The cut that Francis Ford Coppola brought to the writer Jim Hart was apparently terrible. They cursed at one another and desperately tried to save the film. Focusing on the ending specifically, they decided they would need to lop off Dracula's head and have Winona do it. But she had already left the film, and it took almost a year between principal and these new written scenes to finish the film. They had sold the movie as a faithful adaptation of Dracula, but the central Mina and Dracula love story is not in the book. In the end, they got it done for $40 million, and on finally getting it into the theaters, they made back $30 million just opening weekend, finally making $215 million at the box office. It was nominated for Best Art Direction at the 65th Academy Awards and won Best Costume, Best Makeup, and Best Sound Design. Anyway, before I introduce the panel, please like this video and subscribe to the Movie Night Extravaganza YouTube channel. Hit that bell to get notified whenever we're streaming. Also, we are now monetized, so if you have any pressing questions during this live stream, send us a super chat, which helps me keep the show running, and which I am obligated by international law, human rights law, to answer. We also have a Patreon, patreon.com/movie night extra. All of our after parties are on there forever. We also have a new Discord and a Letterboxd HQ account, so those are two more places to follow along with us. Links are in the description. Okay, let me introduce the panel. Conan Neutron, host of Protonic Reversal, co-host of Movie Night Extravaganza, and frontman for Conan Neutron and the Secret Friends, neutronfriends.bandcamp.com. Kristina Oakes is streaming on Twitch at Cosmopolitics, twitch.tv/Cosmopolitics. Also recently joined YouTube, she's on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Cosmopolitics. Send her some subs on Twitch, and send her a coffee. I, of course, am your host and also your local parasite, Forrest Miller, aka Nosferatu, carrying both the Black Plague and vampirism to your local area. It's Vampire Month, and we are ready to suck, baby.
Ooh, suck, baby, suck. Yes, indeed. Yeah, so here we go. It's a power trio tonight.
Yeah, my favorite vampire movie of all time.
Is it really?
Yep.
Okay, I did not know that. No,
Yeah.
I thought you were gonna get way more specific and be like, my favorite vampire movie with an Italian director that's based on Bram Stoker's Dracula of all time.
that has a miniature and a long hand. Yeah, you're like, okay, what?
I first saw this film when I was 8, completely uncensored, unedited.
Wow.
And I was like, and Gary Oldman at 8 years old, I was like, I feel something weird and funny.
Yeah, that's what we call a labyrinth moment.
Yes.
That's crazy. No, I'm obviously I'm like a few days older than you, so you know, I was not that tender young age.
Oh,
I
happy
remember
birthday,
well.
Conan.
Oh yeah, happy early birthday to Kristina, by the way. This sort
In
of
a week.
birthday stream celebration.
Yeah.
But it is really I don't know. I'd be interested in you two's reaction on this, but this had like massive cultural monoculture cachet. Like this like defined vampires for I don't know, at least a decade. I would say like it was the only interpretation of Dracula anybody thought of
Until that horrid movie that has Wes Craven's name on it.
Yeah, well, that didn't make as much of a monoculture, but that definitely sullied the waters a little bit.
It
And
did
then
influence Joel Schumacher to put him in Phantom of the Opera, though. Gerard Butler.
but the vampires themselves, of course, you know, the 2000s, was it 2010s, right? I can't remember exactly when those Twilight movies came out. That was like the next big thing. But for about, I'd say, solid 15 years, despite attempts, this was it. Not only this is it for Dracula, this is it for vampires.
Yeah.
And that's crazy because even the Christopher Lee movies, which are venerated by movie nerds such as myself, and there are 1.5 great Christopher Lee Dracula movies, and he's great in a bunch of movies that are not good at all. I don't know if y'all have seen them recently. Not good. Like it doesn't surprise me that he's like, yeah, I ain't saying that. Because they're like barely written. There's barely anything written there. But he's great as Dracula, and Peter Cushing is fantastic as Van Helsing. However, my favorite Van Helsing is Anthony Hopkins.
Not Hugh Jackman?
Not Hugh Jackman, no.
I feel like I saw this when I was younger, like, or at least parts of it when I was younger, because I remember the Anthony Hopkins Van Helsing. Like, I feel like it's seared. I don't know if it's because it was
And
so
him cutting that like roast or
culturally-
whatever.
Yeah, there's parts of this that I remember from being younger and watching this. So maybe I did see it and I like blanked it out of my mind.
Well, it was so speaking again, I was the perfect age for when this came out. Because first of all, I could go see it unattended by an adult, and I did, and I saw it with a bunch of my friends, and we're like, "Oh man, that was awesome!" But even then, and if Lauren is somehow listening, please cover your ears. I was like, "What's up with Keanu Reeves? Like, why is he just like, what is he doing? Why is he in? Why is he in this?"
You're not impressed by his British accent?
Yeah, it's not great. The dialogue coach is up there with the Gambits, right?
My mom just came down and saw me watching it, chastised me for not liking Keanu Reeves' British accent because she thinks Keanu Reeves is like the greatest actor in the world. And I was like, look, I was making fun of his British accent. And she was like, he's the cutest. No one cares. Shut up. And I was like,
yeah, well, so that's what it is, right? And it's like whatever, it's fine, and that's fine. But let's just say that Keanu's specific brand of charm was not to my immediate sensibilities. That said, I mean, River's Edge. He's fantastic in that. He's brilliant as being an idiot in like the Bill and Ted movies. Dude can act. Dude has range. It's just in this movie, it's a weird sore thumb for me.
Very stoic, very, very wooden almost. Because he can't nail that accent.
The way he says Budapest is crazy. And then you see him writing and he spells Buddha and Pest as two different words. You're like, Budapest. And I was like, maybe that's why he's saying it like that.
But when it did come out, so it was huge. First of all, like it was big culturally, and it was sort of like, and it even though it was this big movie, it also hit like a cult film, if that makes sense. right? Like
Yeah.
even though it was like, oh, it's Francis Ford Coppola and not some indie director or something, but no, it kind of like had that cachet. So you kind of got the best of both worlds. And going through and sort of studying this one a little more and all the practical effects, and they did all these effects that are like, oh, this is like what they did back in like, you know, the classic Universal Monsters days. Like this is how, because there's no other way to do it. Like the miniature work and like the stuff with the shadows and everything along those. It's deeply fascinating. And then like delving a little deeper into it, because the thing that's just, other than just the incessant horniness, mark the time, 60 minutes, 36 seconds. The thing that really brought this forward, story-wise and development of the character, it wasn't just like that was sexualized. It was basically a love story. And crazily enough, that had not really actually been not accurately portrayed. That hadn't been put forward as like the beating heart, if you will, of a film about any vampire. They had put it in as a like inciting incident, as a moment, as something that would have some importance to the plot and to the character. But this is at the heart of it a love story that happens to be about an ageless vampire and his apparently reincarnated ex. You know, but that and like you get in Dracula's entire origin, how he came to be who he is. It doesn't come off as like exposition heavy, and it's badass, and you get to see that incredible armor. That's like, what is that armor?
Yeah.
So I was so excited to find that Mishima Life in 4 Chapters, the production designer for that movie, is the one who did this, and she just got brought into the costumes, and like Coppola, rather than just bringing in like another like Coppola relative to do it, was like, hey, you're great. You want to just like do like all of this? Like your instincts are wonderful, and she is amazing. If you look,
I was gonna give it to my cousin, but. You know,
I mean, he gave the special effects to Roman, right? It was like, this isn't working. Bring in Roman. The kid, your kid?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, Francis, sure.
It
turned out great.
He could assemble like a brand new special effects team of his friends. Like,
yeah,
really. And it's right after the Godfather Part 3 debacle, where he tagged in another one of his kids. And it's like,
did not work.
Also, too.
But real quick, Kristina, the thing about it, it all comes together and it all works. I think, and so that's why when you say this is your favorite vampire movie, no, I get it. You know, like it's like it all works. This is a built world. Yeah. You know, like small things, like you know the green circles and stuff like that, the circles of fire they drive through. Like it's such a different implementation of tone and a different implementation of. Just creating the mystique of Dracula and the world around him that's unlike any film that's been done before. And I say that the Herzog Nosferatu is great at doing the Herzog thing. Like, look, here's this crazy mountains and like this inhospitable being. It's like, we know you like that. That's fine. Like, I get it. It's an inhospitable land. But I mean, I think
inhospitable land.
I think this is maybe the best of all of those tentpole Dracula vampire movies that like builds that world. Multiple times over, like with the freaking train. We did that rear projection thing and stuff like that, where you see the eyes.
I have stuff that I grabbed from the DVD. I think it's the same DVD extras that you were watching.
I'm sure it was, and there's a lot of them. But Kristina, did you have a point? I kind of railroaded you before you were getting.
Oh yeah, well, I'm just saying, you know, a lot of people think when they think of Dracula, they think of Bela Lugosi in the cape and like the slick with the point, but like. A lot of Draculas now have slightly longer, wavy, or curly hair, like Gary Oldman's, you know, because that was a different take on the hair, because it was very, very sexy. I mean, I remember...
He looked like he'd be in Soundgarden or something, you know?
Yeah. Throw it back to the Backstreet Boys, Everybody Backstreet's Back music video. Howie Dorough was Dracula in that music video. But he was not like a Bela Lugosi. They wanted him to have like the long, wavy Gary Oldman hair.
Well, and the hats that people were wearing in the early 90s.
He was wearing the hat. He was kind of dressed up like a modern, more like 1990s version of like if Gary Oldman's Dracula was around in 1990, whatever. Like
he could have been hanging out Lollapalooza and guessing with Jane's Addiction.
Yeah, but also wasn't Lestat coming out around this time too? Because wasn't Lestat like 94?
Yeah, I think
interview, right? Yeah.
Vampire.
It was around the same time.
It was 94. I was still in high school, but barely. So this came out a couple years before.
Yeah.
And Interview with the Vampire.
Another horny vampire movie.
It was, but it was not. It didn't have the same
Cultural significance.
Amongst like unisex, like being like everybody thought it was great. Interview with the Vampire, like it was popular with the ladies.
Yeah. Yeah, that's about it.
Wasn't she like? Isn't she still? Well, I guess she's dead now, but she was like a recovering Mormon, and she
Anne
was
Rice.
And Rice, really?
Or she was like recovering Christian of some kind, and she would kind of lapse back into like this. Some of her work would lapse back into like this really judgmental thing on sex after a while, but then it would also be horny. So she would. There's like I don't know. I was reading a while back when we did another thing that was related to that.
I kind of remember that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, she was an American author of Gothic fiction, erotic literature, and Bible fiction. What? Which one of these things is not like the other?
Can I also point out something about Francis Ford Coppola? Like, you cannot put this man in a box, because I mean, this is the same guy who directed The Outsiders.
Put him in a box.
Put him in a box. Kid.
Like
no, and The Conversation, right? Yeah. And we're just talking about good movies. There's also like Tucker, A Man in His Dream, and like One from the Heart. I mean, like it was pretty up and down. Yeah, I mean,
he
like
directed a few S.T. Hinton novels into films too. So it's like also Jack.
Yeah, well,
best movie he's ever done.
We don't have to talk about all of them.
I think this almost like shows up like the 80s kind of like Wes Craven output in a way, like that kind of horror where you're like world building in this really kind of extreme way and using practical effects and using like the things around you. Like I feel like a lot of 80s horror movies kind of tried to do that, and this is Coppola being like, look, I'm Francis Ford Coppola and I can do this thing better than pretty much anybody too. Like I can.
And the move was to use some modern at the time effects work, but largely go back to the oldest school. Like what do they call it? The naive special effects of in the special feature. I was like, wow, that's a weird name. I'm like, oh no, because they're doing everything as if they, at the time, like 60 years earlier.
Like a con man that does the thing where he's like, look, I can make something move in here, and like
right.
Like yeah,
but it hit so much different, and I think one of the reasons why it was successful amongst, especially counterculture people, like if you're into like weird music or like the freak at your high school stuff, like you were all about Bram Stoker's Dracula, and it was sort of like that was a badge of honor.
Yeah,
and people would be like, I don't know, it's kind of a weird movie. You're weird. Yeah. Actually, no, you're normal. Never mind, we're gonna work on that.
And remember, Gary Oldman had not too long ago played Sid Vicious.
Correct. So Gary Oldman. Exactly, and he was at the sort of like the height of his power as like a really good character actor, but it was one of those things that he wasn't. This is like 2 years before Leon, the Professional, and before before any of the Fifth Element or any stuff, things along those lines. But he was still in the place where it's like people are like, oh, Gary Oldman's in this, awesome. Like, doesn't he play? Isn't he Oswald in JFK?
Yeah.
And that's like the year before.
Well, I mean, you got to remember,
but it's before True Romance with his white boy dreads.
Yeah,
it's before.
You got to remember, like, because we just talked about this, like his first movie role, right? Like as a non-theater actor, is Sid and Nancy. That's his introduction to the world as like a movie actor.
Which is like 86. So he's like 5 years into his career, into his professional career, basically at this point. Yeah.
Also, the woman who played the mother in Shameless, the American version, played Nancy in that. Because I was like, why does she look so familiar? I'm like, oh, and that voice, she's very distinctive voice too, which I think fit, because I think Courtney Love was up for that role, but they were like, nah.
Yeah, that would have been.
But also too, like back with Gary Oldman's career, he said he thanked the Harry Potter films for revitalizing his career, because those movies were so successful. He was able to get more finances from like the 2 or 3 films he was in.
Well, think about where he was at, right? Like he did. I love Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead with Tim Roth. It's amazing, but that is such an actor's actor movie, like, and it's like that's one for like the true heads, right? And like it's not mainstream success at all, and it's like State of Grace and stuff like that, where it's like okay, like he was always like the best dude in the thing. His big thing, I know he like regretted, because he was offered Edward Scissorhands and he turned it down, which was nuts.
Which I find interesting, because I feel like Gary Oldman, like especially in this, but like in some of his roles, it gives you like early Johnny Depp kind of vibes. You know what I mean? Like Johnny Depp, Tim Burton kind of vibes. Like he's great at that. Of course, I think he's a more at least overall,
It's like
right?
a British, more hoity-toity Johnny Depp.
Yeah, like he's a more sophisticated, I think, actor and like way more versatile actor. But like it's interesting that he kind of has that same kind of like I felt like looking at him as Dracula in this as they see him in the carriage, it kind of gave me like Johnny Depp like later kind of vibes. He'd really just dress up Johnny Depp as anything and put him in front of a camera.
Yeah. Well, I think it's kind of like Oldman was like a little bit ahead of him in age and career at the time, but they have a similar sort of path. But this was like his big. People like, oh, that guy's no joke. Like this was like people like at a very much larger level were like, oh wow. I mean, again, he defined the character of Dracula away from Bela Lugosi for like a solid like 10 to 15 years, which is crazy.
Which is not easy to do.
No, I mean it's like one of the all-time great performances, right? I mean,
he's all over the place. He's old as fuck. Then he's young.
Yeah,
he's like Wolfman, Dracula. Like there's even a versatility. He's not the same in any of those roles. Like he has this pathos as the old Dracula that he hasn't found love and found the blood of a virgin in so long that he's just gone old and gray and like which I feel you, buddy. But
I was gonna say that's like me in the morning.
But like
I moisturize.
But yeah, like there's such a versatility between that Dracula where it gives it so much pathos, and I feel like pathos is something that over the years people have realized is central to the Dracula character. Like there has to be a level of sadness to it. Like, oh, this guy is evil and he's living in a castle. Okay, but he's also lonely. He's alienated. He wants to connect with people, but he also wants to suck their blood. Who doesn't? You know what I mean? Like
very relatable. Very
yeah. How relatable, right?
Like he would have loved COVID. Like just
R.I.P. Dracula. You would have loved COVID.
I
know. Well, but it's also there's another aspect of it, right? Because like the Herzog Nosferatu, which we didn't have a chance to cover today, it gets the loneliness and ennui aspect, but it's sort of like that. Klaus Kinski's Dracula. Technically, it's Count Orlok, but it's Dracula. He's like kind of sad and pathetic. You get that loneliness piece of it, but here you get the loneliness and you get that like cool the not debutante like the lordship kind of like, titled landed gentry aspect of that, like, oh no, you're old money and like you have a lot of pride. Even when he's talking about his quote unquote ancestor, like he makes Keanu like whoa. I think, a little bit. I think that's the exact kind of scale to it, right? Like because there's a charisma to the Dracula character, and there's there's like a charisma. There's like like why are people so attracted to him? And in Bela Lugosi's case, right? Like it's because he literally does it with his eyes, but like that's not going to be able to go on forever. So there's like a scale where it's like on one hand there has to be like charisma to it, there has to be like like something that draws people in. On the other hand, there has to be pathos and like this kind of pathetic feeling. And I feel like Gary Oldman definitely redefined the character because he nails both. And like sometimes in the same scene, right? He's like very Sybil that way. He'll like be like, "Whoa, what's happening now?" Okay, great. Also, something else. I should mention too. The Academy agreed because they gave Ishioka the Oscar for best costume design, and I also got best makeup and sound editing at the 65th Oscars, and that's I think it's the Desperado year, if I remember right. That was the year for. And they gave Fellini his honorary one. Marissa Tomei. It was the Marissa Tomei year. That's the best way to remember.
Oh, My Cousin Vinny.
And they gave Al Pacino the Scent of a Woman Oscar, which is we're just going to give this to you.
That's going to be Glenn Close's Sunset Boulevard movie musical adaptation. They're just going to give her that Oscar because she's been nominated
it's enough. We're just going to give this to
times.
You now. Exactly. And Unforgiven won, not Desperados, Unforgiven won Best Picture. So it didn't win any of like the big awards, but it did.
My Desperado Dracula combination synthesis is I'm sorry, I have no wine, I only have pissworm chongo.
but it did. I mean, it won costume design, and boy, should it have, right? So like that, but that shows you like how much cachet it had. Also, let's not forget this was in the middle of like the AIDS crisis. Yeah. Like it was really coming to people's attention. So there's an additional element of horror to it as well. That, like a bloodborne deadly illness is around.
Yeah, and when you also think about like that point as well, it's like, oh, when you become a vampire, your blood gets corrupted once you finally, you
Yeah.
have to drink the vampire's blood to be fully changed into one. So it's like, and
no,
also
there's an extremely like it may hit too close to home. Like the second,
I also like the fact it does take a few times for Dracula to actually it takes about 3 times for him to actually fully transform someone into a vampire, like with Lucy, even though they kept giving her blood transfusions.
Right.
Which
she
is
gets
something
hornier and hornier every time.
Which is something they did in Dark Shadows first.
It's over 9,000.
I'm glad you brought that up, and you're the right person to bring it up because I know you've been going through the entire series. But I feel like the Coppola took some of the best stuff from like Dark Shadows and like the Christopher Lee Hammer horror Dracula and kind of mainstreamed it and did it better.
Yeah.
with
the first Joseph Maggie Evans, he actually did bite her 3 times. She was given blood transfusions.
Yeah,
and then he was trying
to
do,
it's not a clean,
control.
it's not a 5-minute process.
Yeah,
right? That's the thing. Is like I think
that's why
I feel like
these startups that are like, oh, you press a button on your phone, you can turn someone into a vampire. No, whatever happened to having it take 3 times, them, and then they bring them back.
You gotta court them.
It takes weeks. People don't know what's going on. They're like trying to help, and I feel like we've kind of lost that in a lot of vampire movies.
Yes.
More recently, right?
Yeah. Like they go through like mood swings even.
Yeah, right. Yeah, because as they kind of are moving towards being undead, then and they start exhibiting symptoms like like aversion to sunlight and garlic and whatnot.
Bring back those types of vampire tropes, people. Let's go.
They're still horned up. Don't worry.
I like the idea of somebody who's like turning into a vampire and they're not. They were really into garlic and now they're just kind of like they're amped about it.
Oh man, I love garlic. That's
You're like, take it or leave it. And you're like, what's happened to you, brother? Like,
exactly.
You love garlic.
It's like those TikTokers who like to cook and they use like big cloves of like garlic and they put in olive oil and they cook it. I'm like, you're using up all the garlic and the olive oil, people. Like, save the garlic for us.
What happens if vampires come?
Exactly. I'm gonna be an SOL.
Oh no!
You're gonna be fully protected.
I did a TikTok thing, and now I'm vampires are coming.
Yeah.
But I think that there's, and there is you mentioned Dark Shadows. There is kind of a soap opera kind of element. Like there's a whole sequence of this movie that's like straight from like the bodice ripper like romance novels where it's like what is happening right now? What is happening right now? When's the last time anyone on this set got laid? Because there's a lot of desire on screen. Let's put it that way.
Yes, yearning. It's like watching the Agatha show with Agatha and Rio. It's like, damn, they need to just fuck. They just need to do it. I don't care if Disney filmed it.
For some reason, Mina and Lucy kiss at some point. It's like why? That's never like what? I mean,
they're like the rain is horror. Is making us
Yeah, we're gonna kiss each other. Okay.
So one of the things that led to like Winona Ryder kind of getting upset, I think, and leaving the set is that Coppola had Gary Oldman whispering obscenities to like really just sexually explicit shit to Lucy while she was like supposed to be transforming or whatever. He had him off screen like.
Oh really?
Yeah. And apparently that was like one of his techniques to get her to get.
Oh well, but she was the actress who played Lucy was
pretty handsome in this, so
as well.
Oh, really? Because I don't think I've seen her in like too much other stuff, so that's interesting. She was good.
Lucy's her most known role because everyone's like,
well, yes. I mean, the North remembers. But like, there's a lot of good. Richard E. Grant's in this film. I was like, Richard E. Grant's in this. That's awesome.
Yeah,
he's young. Like, wow. Richard E. Grant. Like he's young at least compared to like Anthony Hopkins, Van Helsing. He's like my older teacher, and it's just Anthony Hopkins looking as old as he always looks. Like he might be a vampire. He does not age.
Yeah, he's been perpetually old. Well, same with Bernie. He's been openly elderly since the Carter administration. Like some of these people, look at Steve Martin.
Just born old, looking exactly the same. No, I mean, but the thing is, like Richard E. Grant was another one's an actor, right? He was in How to Get Ahead in Advertising like 2 years before, and like he's one of those guys. He was a that guy, like English guy. Oh, let's get the Englishman in here. I mean, I think
open the cage, get the Englishman in here.
He had done The Player at this point. Where he plays that incredible role of the super comp. Actually, you know what? I think this came out the same year as The Player, if I remember correctly. But anyway, point of fact is Richard Grant is just like a great actor, and like but there's so many people in this that are acting great, and also Keanu Reeves, that you kind of forget about him. So poor Lucy. Lucy did a great job. I don't remember the actress's name.
Yeah, but you also see like the like
Sadie
kind of
Frost.
the bias of like the Academy Awards, right? Because it's nominated for costumes, it's nominated for effects, and it's nominated for
all of the technical stuff. Yeah,
like nobody tries to nominate it for any kind of acting award. Which obviously, like the two leads or whatever, like Keanu and Winona Ryder, it's not their best performances. I'll just say that. Like, but I think that there's an excellent performance.
Winona's all right. I mean, she's been better, but it's definitely. Have y'all seen Scent of a Woman? Gary Oldman's way better than Al Pacino in Scent of a Woman. Like, I'm sorry. But again, that wasn't for that movie.
Gary Oldman puts in an excellent performance. Anthony Hopkins puts in an excellent performance. Like
Tom Waits?
multiple people in this could have. Tom Waits too. They could have gotten.
Tom Waits could have. He could have been that. We talk about the Judd Hirsch supporting actor nomination.
Yeah,
where it's just like, oh yeah, this character's only on screen like for 6 minutes.
Where's his Renfield movies? What I'm asking.
Sure, but like Tom Waits in Bram Stoker's Dracula, fantastic. He's the best. I'm sorry, there's no Renfield remotely close, including the titular Renfield in the movie Renfield. Sorry.
But what about the guy from what's his name? From Dracula Dead and Loving It. He was funny. I was scheduled to meet Count Dracula.
All right, in a serious picture then.
Peter McNicol, that's who he is. Yeah.
Well, but I think that's. But it's also a genre film. He was huge. It was the biggest movie in the world until I think Home Alone 2 broke its record, which is very
Tim Curry, baby. It's the power of Tim Curry.
But it was huge, and it's a genre movie. It is absolutely a genre movie, right? Like it's sort of like the intent of what they were doing with the Hammer Horror Christopher Lee Dracula movies, but with much bigger projection values, and they were treating it seriously. For the first time, Dracula was being treated seriously for the first time in literal decades.
I have crossed oceans of time to be taken seriously.
Also, not to mention, but this was the first of a few Coppola films where he wanted to do his own take on the monsters, which Robert De Niro as Frankenstein's monster, Jack Nicholson as a Wolfman.
It's alive. Yeah. Who's alive? I'm alive. It's me.
I'm alive over here.
Very rightly.
I mean, it worked in this. Right.
Yes.
Incredible
everything else, he just tried too hard. Like he feels like he can recapture stuff, and I'm like, not really. I mean,
he has a better. Yeah. So you're onto something because I think he's got a better hit ratio than like Ridley Scott, for instance, who made like 3 masterpieces and a whole bunch of other movies.
Yes. Is he doing like another movie or? What?
Yeah. Good.
So this is So the Robert De Niro.
But Francis Ford Coppola, I'd say you got obviously The Godfathers, right? Everyone loves those movies.
The Outsider, if you're reading the novel in like 8th or 7th grade, like I did.
Outsiders is legit. It's up there with The Conversation, and people are like, oh yeah, that's him, right?
Yeah, like the special, the 25th anniversary one. I recommend the DVD because that version is actually closer to the novel than like the one they actually released. And because Francis Ford Coppola fought tooth and nail, but he lost in that battle. Like they cut out the full like beginning of what the novel is like read about, and I'm like, ugh.
So the
Apocalypse Now, ever heard of it? That's pretty good.
Wait, what?
the Mary Shelley Frankenstein was not directed by Francis Ford Coppola. He only produced it.
He only produced it?
Yeah, it was Kenneth Branagh, which not a good director.
I remember that happened, and I remember being excited about it, and then that excitement sort of waned as I watched it. It was an interesting take on it. It was at least you tried.
The guy who wrote this and then produced Mary Shelley's Frankenstein is also the guy that did Hook. That was his.
Word. Okay.
Yeah, so a couple years before that, and then his next movie after that he wrote was Muppet Treasure Island with Tim Curry.
Hey, yeah, that's a good one though. You gotta admit, anything's got with Tim Curry in it.
The Conversation is great. I think it actually is my favorite Francis Ford Coppola, which is heretical for people, but like as a movie, I think
it's a great movie.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's my favorite Francis Ford Coppola, but it's a great movie.
I don't know. I think my favorite Francis Ford Coppola is this movie, then The Outsiders.
Okay. Well.
And then The Godfather Part.
And then Megalopolis. Kidding, jokes.
Yeah, we're not seeing Megalopolis, okay?
Exactly. I'm more of a Tucker Man in His Dream kind of guy.
I'm sure I'll see it one day, but I'm not trying to go to see it while it's in theaters.
Oh, man. He did Peggy Sue Got Married. Remember that?
Yes.
With Kathleen Turner and Nicolas Cage.
I love that movie too. Actually, you know what? That's my third. Like you can't.
You
put
just
him
have
in
the most.
You
Kristina
cannot-
just chooses chaos when it comes time to picking a top
And
three
that's what
Coppola. I love
I was
it.
kind of like discussing it in chat with like KT at one point. I'm like, you can't put this man in a box like Scorsese or James Cameron.
Right.
Like they have a certain specific type of movies that they really like to do. Every once in a while, they might diverge differently, like with Scorsese, Kills of the Flower Moon, or that Jesus Christ movie. But like he still does like like gangster-ish, features like major Italian type characters. Using a lot of the same people like over and over again. And
Coppola, by the way, was he was the producer on, or one of the producers on Mishima.
Oh,
really? And the Schrader, that's fantastic. So that's probably how he got to know the work of the production designer whose name I forget. So I love that movie, and I think it's a good episode. I don't know. It was a long time ago, but like but it's the thing. Even if people like are like, I'm not that into it, they're like, yeah, but those sets and production design was incredible. Like it is definitely like standout production design, right?
Yeah, well, because American Zoetrope, which is obviously like Coppola's outfit, like is they produced Mishima.
Did you guys know that once all the cast got together, they read the original novel out loud, and it took them 2 days to do it?
Oh man.
It's long. I looked at audiobooks to see how long they would be for the original novel, because I was like, I'm in a Dracula stage. It's like 17 hours, and I was like, I don't know.
Also,
that's a lot of Dracula.
Also, another interesting fact. I'm a huge fan of the Cramps.
Oh yeah.
So his scream as he drives the sword into the cross is not his scream. It's not Gary Oldman's voice. It's actually Lux Interior.
Lux Interior. That's awesome.
His scream. Yeah, it was overdubbed. I'm like, yeah.
Well, as someone,
the Google muck, like
Yeah, well, I've literally had Kid Congo Powers on the show to talk about it. Yeah, I mean, absolutely, I know. You kidding me? Yeah, it's great. That was a win for all the freaks, Great. No, that's funny.
Yeah.
And again, I'm just gonna redouble what I said earlier, that I think this is the only movie that gets across Dracula's like origin story and does it like very quickly without it just being like a narrative drop. Like you get to see it, like the shadow work with like when it's showing the war and it's all like it's so cool, and it's like oh wow, that's like literally technology from like the 1910s. Like that's how they would do battles, where it's like oh it's one step above shadow puppet theater, but like it works so well because you know how violent it is, and like well you're not actually seeing anybody get got, but like it looks so epic in scale.
Yeah,
because it's treated seriously. It isn't like, hey, everybody, check it out, puppets.
Yeah, and it's very, and it doesn't need to be some long, monotonous explanation about his origin story. He fought in a war.
Right.
His wife thought that he died. He gets upset, and he basically says, "I renounce God.
That's the oldest.
I will come back from the dead.
It is the oldest.
I'm gonna drink this blood."
I mean, you go back to Romeo and Juliet, the fake thing that says, I'm dead, and then your wife commits suicide.
You wake up, and then you realize, oh my God, I drank the poison too soon. Like I hate Romeo and Juliet.
You go,
I hate that story.
Pranked, I'm alive, that was a prank.
Yeah. Also,
so we've talked... Oh, go ahead.
Also, Gary, so you wonder, Gary Oldman has a bit of like a mid-higher pitched voice.
Oh, I think I was this is what I was going to talk about. Yeah.
Singing coach.
And he specifically lowered his voice, right? Like he specifically, because it's so. I had to turn the volume up because when he was like being quiet, I was like, oh man, he's like it's a low register. It's like blending in with the traffic noise.
Yeah, I don't know if he did his own. I think he might have done his own singing for the Sid and Nancy movie too. I think.
Yeah.
Well,
that's exactly what
it would have been like my way. I think. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. My way. Yeah.
But that's interesting because it's like that's definitely an aesthetic, right? Because I think he like almost like lowered his voice by like a full octave or something just to like for the role. And when we think of I don't drink wine, like stuff like that. It's like it wouldn't work if it was at his normal register.
I don't drink wine.
Yeah. Sounds like a sorority girl.
I don't drink wine. I drink wine coolers.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
European flavor.
Have a Zima instead. There you go.
Yeah.
It's like
Zima, everybody. Movie night extravaganza is
that's
100%
like
Zima.
he mugs it up so much too when he says that. He's like, I never drink. And then he like kind of that like he has that nice pause where he's like kind of smirking and he's like wine. And it's like that worked because the movie is like rooted in the kind of this number one, rooted in, you know, Dracula's kind of pathos and like you know, but like
that's
also
a classic Dracula line.
As an audience, right? Like we kind of respond to these like naive effects and like the way this movie is staged to be like, it's, you know, this guy's been by himself for long enough that he 100% has inside jokes. So he makes like, I never drink.
And when Keanu meets him in the castle, like he is a little bit like this guy is kind of weird, which is again going back to the Herzog Nosferatu when it's like Bruno Ganz shows up and it's like, okay, this dude looks like an actual rodent. You're not thinking something might be weird here. Like it doesn't play as well because you're like, what is wrong with you? You're just trying to make that sale, I guess. Okay, you know,
have some of this wine.
Yeah, and also like going back to Gary Oldman, like, you know, being like a that guy actor. Sometimes he feels like he's still a that guy actor. Like he went from being like a that guy actor to someone of a leading man, and then as he got older, he was more of like a supporting featured player in a lot of movies.
Look at Slow Horses. He's like the lead in Slow Horses, and it's the most Gary Oldman character actor like
Oppenheimer
lead ever.
You forgot he was Truman, right?
You know, Mank.
Yeah.
You know, he's
Get that
still
crybaby out of here.
I mean, he's even in that awful Churchill movie, but I think he was a high point in that movie where he plays Churchill as like.
That's what he won the Oscar for.
Yeah, I think that was
Smokey MC. Just finished watching True Romance. Oldman's cameo of that is like everything he's done memorable hairstyle too.
Yeah,
thank you.
He's the problematic fave of everybody that, you know, watches.
Yeah. The one everybody buys their shitty weed from the first time.
Yeah, of course. I did not know that it was Winona Ryder who brought the script to Francis Ford Coppola.
Yeah,
because she was going to be in Godfather 3. Crazy.
Like, I'm sorry.
That's insane.
It's an entirely different and better movie.
No, I would have loved to have seen that.
It would have been a good movie.
but setting the stage for it, right? Like she's kind of on top of the world at that moment. Like she's been in a whole bunch of like hits. She's been in Heather. She's, you know, like her whole like early discography, and then she's supposed to.
We've covered a lot of them too. Weirdly, that's kind of cool.
We haven't done Edward Scissorhands though.
She's supposed to be. She's supposed to be in Godfather 3. She has a nervous breakdown, and she's with Johnny Depp at the time, and Johnny Depp is like. You know, like calls an ambulance and she goes to the hospital, but nobody really knows that. She just backs out of filming 4 weeks before they're supposed to film Godfather 3. Yeah. And she has to go in and apologize to Coppola, being like, he probably hates me because by this point, Godfather 3 is done and everyone's like Sofia Coppola's performance was terrible. So all like the reviews are in, and she comes in with the script from the guy that hooked that she was sent by an agent. You know, because they're just trying to kind of send the script around. And so she's like, what about doing this for your next project? I'm sorry, like I've been kind of in the hospital for this amount of time. And he forgives her, and then they do this together. And then he spends the rest of the movie fucking kind of torturing her and berating her. But I guess he was still pissed.
Yeah. I mean, it really shows that, you know, it took a while. I mean, again, we canceled her for shoplifting, which is stupid. And it took her forever until like
not me. She got better in my mind. I'm like, good on her, girl. Go get it.
Exactly. Like, and she seems so sweet. Like her voice is much more high pitched than it was in her films. Maybe she deepened her voice a little bit on purpose, but her voice is so cute and high pitched, and she seems like a really fun, nice woman. And it's like, you know, you could tell in the beginning she couldn't handle the fame that she was having because she was one of the actresses in the late 80s, early 90s.
Fucking people can.
Yeah,
you know, like,
but now that she's older, and she looks back on her career, she looks great for being in her 50s. I mean, I still can't believe that either. God. But like, she has appreciation for even this film as well.
Yeah, well, because it's also like a product of her bringing it to Coppola. Like, it was her thing to be like, "Hey, this is my idea." But I found Gary Oldman introducing this movie on like a Film 4.
Nice.
Dracula. It was an instant yes, because of Francis. Most of the work, nearly all the work I've done, has always been incoming. You know, an incoming call. I've not pursued roles or certain once was Hannibal, Ridley Scott, and I heard that he had not cast that role, and I made a phone call, and I think he offered it to me over the phone, and then I called my manager and said, I think Ridley's just offered me Hannibal. It was the first time ever. But most of my career has just been things that were incoming. So it was never on a bucket list. It was never sort of like, oh, I've got to play Dracula. It was the fact that it was, and I thought that it was Francis Ford Coppola, who is, in my humble opinion, arguably one of the greatest American directors who's living. You know, I had been such an admirer of his work, so it was a real no-brainer, that one. I went to Napa and auditioned, and got the part.
Yeah, I just realized that's why I put the maniacal laugh in the theme song for the month, is because of this one. There's some good maniacal laughter in this one.
Yeah.
Which took me a while because my throat was not up to snuff, so I kept coughing and again. Then that led to the discussion of, do vampires cough? And my answer to that was no. But
yeah. I keep forgetting that he was in Silence of the Lambs as that pedophile, greatly disfigured too. People didn't know it was him.
Gary Oldman one?
Yes.
Silence of the Lambs, really?
That, you know, the guy
That's
that
a
got
movie
severely,
we should do.
Yeah, the guy that was severely disfigured or burnt.
No, you're talking about Mason Verger. That was Hannibal. It's the sequel.
Where he played that guy.
Yeah, it's a sequel book and the sequel movie. The sequel movie is okay, but the book is fantastic.
Yeah,
I was gonna say I feel like I would really know if Gary Oldman had been in Silence of the Lambs.
I mean, another time for me to drop this. I literally wrote a concept record about Hannibal Lecter and the world around him. So if I didn't know that would be very be very bad. It's like our most popular record.
Well, like, it shows that he kind of, like, regardless of his roles, like, you don't really know it's him because he's again like that guy who kind of disappears. Like, again, a lot of people didn't know that was him in Oppenheimer, and I'm like,
the only Hannibal. We're not talking about Hannibal. I don't want to get too much into it, but one of the biggest disappointments for me in that, I do like Ray Liotta. He was a terrible Paul Krendler. That was bad, and the ending was bad as well.
It got parodied way too many times.
Screenplay, partially by David Mamet, by the way, based off of the Thomas Harris book. But
now, how did Keanu get the role?
What's that, Kristina say?
How did Keanu end up becoming Jonathan? Like,
okay, do you have any all casting stuff on this? Because I like Keanu Reeves. I do. Yeah, well, but it seems like which one of these things is not like the other to me.
Yeah. Let's see.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, and I do like him a lot in other things, not in this.
Yeah. I'd like it. See, this is something kind of funny because I watched Point Break and this back to back pretty much.
That's right. I forgot about it. And let's give a shout out to that episode of What If I Don't Like It with our friend KT Balsero.
What If I Don't Like It?
It's really good. You should check it
out. But like I watched the back to back and it's like Keanu Reeves is great when he's number one, he's supposed to be chill, which in this he just does a lot of whoa whenever something happens.
Yeah. So
crazy. But
stiff.
Number two, like he doesn't do period pieces. Like when he acts, it has to be something number one in his voice, his cadence, and a script that kind of works with that cadence.
That plays to his strengths. Right.
Yeah.
He's not like a Daniel Day-Lewis type of actor, right? Like he's not gonna, and that's fine. It doesn't have to be, and especially like here, like he looks fantastic. Great.
There's a whole section on Keanu Reeves' performance on the Wikipedia.
I found it. So Francis Ford Coppola has openly criticized his own reasoning for casting Keanu as Jonathan Harker. According to him, he needed a young, hot star that would connect with the female filmgoers. And then Keanu Reeves has said, he wasn't happy with it either. But the thing is, he was exhausted from making a lot of several movies because Keanu was everywhere in the late 80s, early to mid 90s as well.
He really was. He was a Timothée Chalamet of his day.
He really tried to
Point Break was 1 year before this. Like,
Yeah, which was a big hit because he's been acting since the 80s. But like,
Oh yeah, have you guys
he
seen
was just
River's
exhausted.
Edge? Fucking awesome.
Yeah, but yeah, he was like, I didn't have the energy to really. That's why my performance seems very like stiff and stoic, and the accent sucks. And I'm like,
I mean, for me, it doesn't ruin the movie. You know what I
No.
mean? It's just surprising because everybody else is so strong. Like again, I think Anthony Hopkins as Renfield wildly underrated.
you mean Van Helsing.
As Van Helsing, yeah, sorry. Like and one of the best Van Helsings, but you can't say rank these Van Helsings because then people bring in that horrible sci-fi series and then the freaking the movie and enough. So
Yeah.
the original
Like,
Van Helsing is not the greatest part of the original Dracula either. It's kind of like, all right,
Yeah.
you're just as fucking weird as the Dracula, my man. Like,
but imagine if it had been like Ralph Fiennes or something, you know, like in that role.
He would be a goodish looking Van Helsing.
Yeah, because you would get I mean,
well, they do have a hot Dracula, so why not have a hot Dracula and a hot Van Helsing?
Why
Yeah,
not
sure.
hot? Yeah, like make it 3 for 3. Like, you know, also do, you know, God,
All right, we're pitching this movie, Dracula, but everyone is hot. Van Helsing's hot. Dracula's hot.
Everyone's
Thomas
hot.
Harkin's hot.
Yeah, the
Renfield's
Vampire
hot.
Brides are definitely hot.
Renfield, Tom Waits. Still Tom Waits. What was it?
yes.
What was the thing last episode? What was it that like everybody's replaced by except for
Oh, the hyena from Nosferatu.
the hyena? If somebody's a hyena, yeah.
This movie
Renfield
entirely
is played by a hyena. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Renfield, hyena. Dracula, hot. Van Helsing, hot. Thomas Harkin, hot.
Peter Cushing getting a shout out. I actually gave Peter Cushing a shout out earlier when the Hammer horror stuff came out. Shadow Man, just so you know, I do think Peter Cushing is great, and that's the wrong one. And I think his iteration of it is probably my second favorite. But like those movies are not good. Sorry.
Yeah.
2 of them are good. 1.5 of them are good.
Yeah, so
Have you watched them lately? That's all I'm gonna say.
1991.
Not great.
Keanu Reeves have been in Point Break, Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey, and My Own Private Idaho, all 3 in 1991.
So he
That's
was exhausted.
Wow.
Yeah.
That
So,
was
yeah,
back in the day when
My Own
people
Private
were
Idaho's
doing
good, too.
5 films a year now.
Yeah.
Like now people do like 1 a year because
Except unless your name is Timothy Chalamet, Margaret Qualley, or like 2 other people.
See, but that's the thing. You have to ride the
Ooh,
wave.
she make a good Mina.
You have to ride the wave. So if you're cresting the wave, you got to ride it out, baby.
Right.
Timothy
Yeah.
Chalamet is riding the wave.
That's true.
Like a
That's
Point Break, anyway.
Yeah, exactly. But I think it's starting to crest for Timothy Chalamet. Maybe, you know what I mean? Like I don't know how much higher he can really get, but he's
See how
riding.
this Bob Dylan movie goes, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, Oh my god, his fans are like borderline haters. They're like, oh my god, he's so fat now. I'm like, he's older. Oh, like he's not 20 anymore.
Timothy Chalamet.
Watch him actually not keep that accent. People like see Austin Butler, it ain't that hard.
Yeah, if Austin Butler had that accent in Dune Part 2, that would have been amazing. Let's fight. Them's fighting words.
God, imagine if Keanu Reeves kept that accent, his Jonathan Harker accent throughout the like.
It was like such a quarter of an accent, dude. It was like it was like
Not even a good mid-Atlantic or transatlantic
that was
accent. Like his French,
befuddling.
his Quebec accent in the Youngbloods movie with Patrick Swayze and Rob Lowe, much better than like. I'm like, you nailed that Quebec accent so well.
They needed to tag in the Elvis Austin Butler just so he can like get fucking pissed off that Timothy Chalamet stepped in his blue suede shoes.
Hey man, don't set my blue suede shoes, man. I'm gonna hit you with this crisp blade now, right?
Well, nothing else in the Dune world is that that vibrant. So he comes in with the shoes and he's like, "Come on, man."
That's enough. This is classic after party
blue
material.
suede shoes, like.
But
can we,
I think Austin Butler's a great actor, and I like him a lot in Dune Part 2. Thank you.
So, Forrest, did you see the video of like Gary Oldman and Winona Ryder rehearsing their like scenes, and he's like, "Ugh, I'm messing up my lines." He's like trying to get them accurate, and Winona's just looking up at him like, it's a funny like moment. Like they go viral every once in a while.
I didn't see that one, but I did download the one that was the one where Gary Oldman stormed off set and was screaming at Francis Ford Coppola. I have that somewhere.
What if it was Jonathan Harker? What if it was Johnny Depp?
I mean, I think Johnny Depp could definitely do it.
He does a British accent really well.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like known for it at this point. Whatever it is he is doing now. I don't know what
it's like it's like a mixture of English and Kentuckian because that's where he's originally from.
Yeah. Sorry, that was just like
that was a basic like the peak of his and Winona Ryder's relationship too, because I think they broke up by like 93, 94, I think.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess there's good reason for it not to be the case.
But even after they broke up, they were still on good terms because I think there was one like Golden Globe where she was nominated for something. He was like applauding her even though they were at separate tables and stuff like that. Like he had no ill will towards her. So
except for when he got.
Well, I also think. So when this movie's talked about as a modern context. Mm-hmm. First of all, what people remember most about it are some of the scenes like him stabbing the cross and like the blood coming out because that's crazy and like iconic moment.
Lucy getting raped by the werewolf Dracula.
we just getting railed by that like werewolf, yeah. But I mean like we have like it's desperately horny. We'll put it into the desperately horny category. That's another thing people remember. And then a lot of times people will be like, and Keanu's terrible non-accent. I'm like. I don't think it matters that much because think about the Jonathan Harker character. If you talk about like someone that's like inciting
kind of boring
the story,
anyway.
Right? Like he doesn't need like look. I honestly, Bruno Gantz might be the best Jonathan Harker.
Yeah.
But like it doesn't matter. Not really. Bruno Gantz is great.
Yeah. It's me, Jonathan Harker, and I am here to sell you real estate.
Yeah, I mean, like it doesn't matter.
Non-entity.
Right.
Like,
he's an inciting incident.
Yeah.
Is what it comes down to. He basically has to react to, whoa, this seems weird. Oh, wow, this is weird.
Whoa. So maybe Keanu.
Are you eating a baby? Whoa.
And it'd be funny, though, if Johnny Depp was Jonathan Harker, then that means it would have been how many people who would have eventually worked for Tim Burton? We would have gotten Winona Ryder.
Oh, yeah, it was like the Tim Burton Glee Club. Yeah, you fucking kidding me? Yeah.
His future girlfriend. If it was Johnny Depp. I mean, I feel like Gary Oldman would make a good... He would have made a good Tim Burton actor.
I wish we saw more.
He wasn't.
I wish we saw more of Monica Bellucci in this. Not gonna lie.
Yeah.
I mean, let's put it this way: there was no movie quite like that in theaters at the time. Let me just
say, one of her favorite movies ever is actually Corpse Bride.
Oh, really? Monica Bellucci's?
She did like her letterbox thing. I was like, ooh.
I think she's awesome. I mentioned it, probably, I think I'm either the after party or the main episode for Beetlejuice 2. She has a role as herself in that great Netflix show. It's a French show called Call My Agent. She's fucking hilarious. She's a good actress.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things, it's like Selma Hayek. Selma Hayek's not only a good actress, she's very funny as well, but she's also just like unearthly attractive.
Yeah.
And like that's all people care about.
Yeah.
I mean, I care about it too, but it's also like, let her be funny.
It's a third thing. It's a secret third thing that we care about.
Right, exactly. And it's, but it's, I mean, I had forgotten that she was one of the
brides.
Three. Yeah.
like I feel like that's always like a lot of girls' goals. It's like, let's just be the vampire brides that try to get, Mina to fall for Dracula, because that's also part of their roles.
It was the sexy nurse of its time. Yes.
Exactly. Hello, nurse.
Well, it comes from like the idea of Dracula, like Dracula as succubus. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And so that has to, like, that kind of parasitic thing has to have like people into entrance people. But I feel like, with or without them, Gary Oldman is still charismatic and like interesting and
sure. And it's also it's a nod to the history of the character, like the Hammer horror Brides of Dracula thing, right? And but it's done in a way that, like, again, it works, and it's, I guess now we would call it elevated horror, right? But there was no term for
elevated horror.
And it's part of his whole trope now. He's get the vampire brides. Like a lot of Dracula movies, they still have, like, he has 3 women still living with him, humping a dude.
Do not worry about those women, baby. Those are my sisters.
It just reminds me of the Dracula Dead 11 scene where Renville's getting humped by like 2 Dracula brides, and Dracula, is walking by, like, and then he's like, "What's happening?"
No, maybe one of them is my ex-wife, but we are living together in separate parts of the apartment. You do not have to be jealous of my ex-wife.
She won't give me back the book collection. That bitch. No, it's like this was lampooned in like sketch comedy shows. You know, it
everything.
had like cultural cachet. Like it was.
I mean,
and not just from dudes that were like with massive boners. You know, it was like,
horny Dracula is like inherently a funny concept when done this
Sure.
big, right? Like when done this big and this incredible. But this movie also like understands its own sense of humor. Like there are moments in this movie that are actively funny. Like
whereas, and I know I keep crapping on the Hammer horror movies. It's like, what if Dracula, but everybody was brain damaged? You know, it's. I'm sorry, they're not good. They're just not good. I'm not saying they're not cool. They are cool. What they aren't is good.
I love
That's the last I'm gonna say in it.
I love Christopher Lee being like, yeah, I ain't saying that shit, but I'll be Dracula.
Well, he's a real actor, you know?
Yeah. Who also did Tim Burton movies.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, so like one of the funny parts in this goes to like Van Helsing when he's like, you know, when Richard E. Grant is like, what are you gonna do to her? And he's like, nothing. I'm just going to we just need to drive this through her heart and take off her head. And then he's like this very good comedic pause.
Me, Arthur.
So it's crazy. So you bringing that up, like that the original ending was not like what it was, and then I guess Coppola brought in like George Lucas, who was like, "Well, you got to cut off his head at the end, right?" I was like, "What, George? What?"
What happened to driving a stake through his heart? Keep it classy.
So they did a reshoot to end the movie, and it was like there was like weeks away before it being delivered to theaters. They did a reshoot to include that. Which is insane.
And no one they did do a screen test, and no one was like, "No, we don't want him beheaded. He's too good looking."
Oh no, his head—that's the best part of him. But James Hart,
his head with the face on it.
The screenwriter, right? Coppola was freaking out and called him on the phone, like literally like a few months before the film was set to go. To be released, and he called him on the phone and he's like, "This shit is terrible. I fucking hate it. There's something missing." And the guy comes to his office and he's all offended, and they're like screaming at each other, and they watch it, and James Hart realizes like, "Oh shit, this movie's terrible the way it is. Like, there's something missing." So
it doesn't land the way they want it to.
So they start feverishly writing these extra scenes, but everyone's already gone. Like Winona Ryder has already left the set.
They're working on other things. They moved on. Sure. Yeah.
Yep.
So there's an entire, pretty much like a year between when they had to shoot all of these reshoots, and because of like getting everybody from the, like on set at the same time, there was an entire year where they had to shoot these, before they could shoot the reshoots, and initial like principal photography was done. Yeah. So it's like, and that's when they did the, just cut off his head part.
Which is crazy because it's sort of like, other than being like, wow, that's a decision. Like I don't think like the movie would have not been good if they didn't cut off his head. You know what I mean? It's just, but also there is something about it being as big of a swing as it was, which connected with a lot of people that were into like non-mainstream culture, counterculture stuff, and it being such a hit that's like that is a kind of like that's a defining statement. And again, it comes back to it being this Dracula is a love story. Whether you like approve or not doesn't matter. It's a love story, right? Mm-hmm. And I think, Kristina, you mentioned like Romeo and Juliet. It's a perfect Capulet and the other ones. What was the other one? The Montagues, right?
Yeah.
Capulet and the other one, exactly.
Two families. Both
two families. They don't like each other. These star-crossed lovers that have a hard time.
Both unlike in dignity.
I spent way too long looking for this comment, which is specifically about the sunglasses. Which, by the way, this movie single-handedly sold thousands of pairs of those sunglasses.
Oh yeah, they're still quite popular too.
they're still. I can assure you, as someone that was there, those were not a thing, and then they were like everywhere, and it was like, oh, you have like the Dracula glasses, cool.
Yeah.
They got to cut a check to Gary Oldman and to Francis Ford Coppola.
I was gonna say, if he got a taste for that, boy, he would never have to work again.
Mm-hmm.
They made him sell his wine, his wine distributor. He could have gotten that the check they cut from those sunglasses, and that could have funded Megalopolis.
I just love that it was George Lucas that suggested it. Like Lucas, what do you like? Oh,
now,
what do you know about gothic love horror nonsense?
First of all, why is George Lucas here? Secondly, why did he say that? Thirdly, he might be right. I don't know. I mean,
George Lucas being like, now have him open the lightsaber, Take the head off. Take the head off the vampire.
Giving like detailed direction.
Famous lifesavers that were around in what, the 1800s?
Right. Exactly.
No, can Dracula use the Force? Because if he can't, you only really can.
I mean, he
comprehend.
could. He's got powers. Like, he can literally poke someone without, like, yeah.
Dracula versus Darth Vader, the movie. Like,
Now that's two great villains. Well, Darth Vader is considered the ultimate.
Both with
villain.
very deep voices too.
Yes.
R.I.P. To a legend there.
Yes, but his voice will always be Darth Vader's, though. He gave
James
his,
Earl. Didn't he had like an insurance ad or something he did for a while. It was like, oh shit, it's Darth Vader.
Just do it with AI.
Then he used to say, like, he signed, like, yes, you can use
NFTs are lovely.
Okay, now it feels like I gotta do my bass voice. Since we're doing this, we're covering our faces.
If you need a meal plan,
Bitcoin is the only cryptocurrency most banks accept.
Oh my god! Now I'm imagining like Carrie Fisher as
rolling in her grave.
like, what are these idiots up to?
Yeah.
Carrie Fisher would roast the show, and it would be fucking fantastic.
I know.
She was a hilarious lady.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She deserved all the goodness in life, but
Carrie Fisher was not in Bram Stoker's Dracula, though, which we should get back to talking about.
Yeah,
but I'm just saying, imagine she were like.
If Carrie Fisher was in Bram Stoker, if she was like Lucy or something, or Mina, I guess. Sure, fuck it, why not? Yes. All right.
So this is
how do you think? Oh, go ahead, Forrest.
Oh, I wanted to do this before we like get too far off any of this stuff. So this is like a couple minute video where they go into the beginning of like the naive effects and like they're thinking.
Oh, cool, awesome. That's way better than I was gonna ask about. So.
Given that the book Dracula was written around 1900, being the same date as the birth of the cinema, and not only that, but the birth of the cinema coming out of magicians and illusions and basically magic tricks, I thought that I would not only make the film entirely in a false place, in a studio, but I would only use effects done as they would have been done in 1900.
I have not been getting what I've been asking for. I have been asking for shadows and illusion and double impositions and imagination.
And the big visual effects supervisors came on the film and told me how I had to do this stuff. And basically I saw that little by little they were, as they always do, leading me down the path to do it the way everybody else does it. I fired them and I hired my young son, I don't know that he was even 30 at the time, Roman Coppola, to be my collaborator.
He definitely wasn't.
And in a sense, I began to realize that it was only my own family, my son, whom I had raised in this style of adventure, who would be there shoulder to shoulder with me, pushing it to be what I hoped it could be.
We started talking about how magic illusions could be used. Reverse photography, running the camera backwards, altering gravity, taking the camera, putting it on its side, putting the set a bit on its side, and then unusual things happen in which you feel that you are level, but in fact you're not, and so odd things happen.
Good.
Marker.
The double exposure that we did with Harker walking through the castle, and we have some rats scampering across the ceiling, and that was done in camera with 2 passes in which we photographed the rat with the camera upside down, and we used a special matte box that blocked the film from being exposed. We rewound the film, flipped the camera over, and aligned this special matte box that we had, and then we were ready for Keanu Reeves to come in and do his walking by with the candles, and those 2 passes were exposed with one another.
There too is all computer graphics, and this is like, ropes and mirrors and, that kind of hocus pocus, which is delightful.
Years ago in New York, my dad acquired a very old Pathé camera, which is one of the workhorse cameras of the early period of silent filmmaking.
We're going to shoot you today. We have time because it didn't rain with the old Pathé camera, the original silent camera. The way Griffith and those guys, so that the whole sequence when it starts will look like that. Yeah, that's what I want to do. A fast walk. Da, 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 dum, dum, dum. But I like it when it varies a little bit, so you get the...
Yeah, I mean...
Yeah, it reminds me of some of... Yeah, it reminds me of some of the techniques Coppola used in The Outsiders. Like, if you remember after Johnny stabbed Leif Garrett, there's a scene where he's trying to, like, I guess, like, put dirt on the knife, and you see his face really close up, but you're able to see Leif Garrett's body not completely blurred, like
right.
crystal clear.
Well, and there's things like the whole mirror thing. That's like a Marx Brothers thing. Like, seriously, like which.
Yeah.
By the way, I can't believe we've never covered a Marx Brothers movie because those movies are.
And I got them.
We've talked about it.
We've talked about them a lot. We should totally do it at some point.
No,
But
we talked about covering
like a Queen album.
Duck Soup.
Not at the Opera or
Yes.
Ducks.
I thought
Anyone with Margaret Dumont, because Margaret Dumont. Anyway, whatever. We're not talking about now. This after party crap. But
I always give her just being like, "Well, this is an extremely fancy event. Come here," and like with her voice, and then like, they're gonna cause such fucking chaos for.
They're gonna just like give her the business. No, but it's like but like the thing is, if you have the Marx Brothers and everybody's like going ham like the whole time, you need someone to be like the center of it. It's actually a harder role than cutting up.
Yeah,
like she's awesome. Like she's
a really fucking hard role.
She's truly. But anyway, but like that's completely a Marx Brothers thing. By the way, I had to stop the video to be like, yeah, you got that from Twin Peaks. Remember when David Lynch did that? Because that was cool when David Lynch did that a year earlier.
Yeah.
But like, respect. It looks great. It's awesome. I'm not mad about it. But it's like, come on, man, you can't give a shout out.
He's like, that was TV. This is film.
Yeah. Oh well, that was still a dividing line. Then you're right. You're right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Conan is pure Groucho. I really am. The one-liners and all.
But yeah,
tagging everybody's BS and then them getting mad at me but not able to do anything about it. Oh yeah, that's definitely me.
We had a question from Abby about Carrie Ells. Like, she said, "Who's
in this film?"
Yeah.
Yes. He's awesome.
Yep.
And we talked about it so long ago on Princess Bride. The guy's great.
Yeah.
Like, and I kind of always felt like he should have had a bigger career.
Yeah.
Because he's a good actor. He's like incredibly handsome.
He's like
he has a good sense of humor.
He's one of those rare actors that I call like delightful. Like whenever he shows up, I'm like, oh, this is gonna be very delightful.
Like hell yeah, Carrie always. And his character is like, why is he Texan? I don't know. I mean, like, sure. But he's awesome in this, and like the suitors, and that goes back to the lower key part of the needlessly horny parts of it.
Wait, he's not the one that's Texan in this. He's the one that's British. He's like the guy that she.
You're right. You're right. It's okay.
He was also in Shadow of a Vampire.
Was he really? What did he play in Shadow of the Vampire?
Yeah, he played Fritz Arno Wagner. Fritzy.
Oh, I almost wish we had time to cover that. But here's the thing. It's not as good as a movie as I want it to be.
Yeah.
Like, I keep thinking, like, oh, that one's awesome. And they'd be like, well, wait a second. Now, is it awesome? Well, parts of it are awesome.
Yeah. It seems like he's more of a character actor, it seems, because he's like, he'll do like any role. Like, again, he was in a Saw. He was in the first Saw movie.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that.
I remember when we were getting ready to do getting ready to do Princess Bride. I was watching like clips of him, and he has like there's like some show where he goes bar hopping, and I was like, this guy seems like so much fun to be around.
Dude, oh, that sounds awesome. I would so be into bar hopping with Carrie Elways. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Like, yes, let's go. Let's go. Where and when? Tell me. And the guy's so awesome. Like, and when he shows up and stuff, it's just like, oh, cool. Yeah, you're right. He's a delightful guy. Yeah, like
especially in the Saw movie. Like,
but I also think that something that works in this movie that like doesn't get enough credit is sort of I don't know if it passes the Bechdel test, but like, Lucy and Mina kind of like talking amongst themselves as ladies do about the dudes at court, right? Mm-hmm. And I guess that doesn't pass the Bechdel test. I think about it, but like it works for establishing the context for what's happening in these women's lives at this time, right? And like that's what they would be doing anyway.
Yeah.
And then you do get an aspect, right? Exactly. I do get aspects of things where it's like, oh my god, when he trips over the bear rug, amazing. That's like I was like, ah! But it's like, okay, you're not gonna get it. All right.
Well, there's like a certain there's a certain thing to like the two I guess female characters, which is that Mina is obviously incredibly repressed. And is one of those people that's like, you know, her friend, like Lucy is supposed to be like the free spirit kind of next to her. That's like,
I mean, remember that she's reading like the sex book. She's like, can a man and women really do that? And it's like doggy style or something. And she's like,
and I thought it was. I remembered it as a Karma Sutra, and it's not. It's Arabian Nights, which is even more hilarious.
I think they were 69. I think that's what they were doing in the. But there's nice. Anyway, there's something there's something that I feel like is incredibly like there's like this dichotomy there where she kind of embraces that role as the movie goes on, of that kind of the free spirit gets into her and she has to like fight against it, which is kind of it works well with the Christian iconography of the whole thing.
Right, and that sort of like, you know, sex equals sin, et cetera, that so on and so on. But and I think it works really well, but it's also, I don't know, like it's not overdone. You know what I mean? Like it's easy. Like I feel like there's a lot of, I don't know. Like maybe I understand that I tend to be overly critical towards horror. It's because I love. I wouldn't be overly critical if I didn't. But it's just like you don't need to like hit people over the head with a hammer with it. You know, like she does great, and it's weird that. I mean, she didn't. Did she even do like other stuff after this? Like, I feel like
actually played Lucy.
Lucy,
Sadie Frost. Let me look it up.
Yeah,
I think she married somebody famous and was only in like 2 things, if I remember.
Law. She married Jude Law and had kids with him. He cheated on her with the nanny.
All right, do we got pictures of these kids? Because that's probably some pretty good-looking kids. I'm just all I'm going to say.
She was in Dark Obsession.
What? What is that?
Yes, Captain Jack. Beyond the Rave. Bird Flu.
She's great in this. But can we give a shout out to Richard E. Grant? Like one of my favorite scenes that, like, again, I caught this time that I didn't think was funny at the time is when he's like trying to like calm Mina down. Oh yeah, let me take you up here. You know, like you can just hang out over here. It's fine. Yeah, with the shrieking inmates, like it's not even soundproof. Like, what's calm about this? There is nothing calm about this entire building. But it's so funny. It's like, oh no, it's great. You can relax up here. You know, I'll be around. It was like, that's what's calm about this. Nothing.
Well, when you
Van Helsing's very nonchalant too the entire time.
Oh, he's practically sociopathic, and that's one of the reasons why I love that.
He's like, eat for the dark days ahead, and I'm like, why would you say that? That doesn't sound like.
Well, no, there's the other thing that it's an almost autistic level of like verbal diarrhea when she asks was it peaceful when she died? He's like, no, I cut off her head and
no, it was horrible. Yeah, it was like all these terrible things happened.
Not anymore, and it's like. And then you kind of like, whoa, why would you say that?
Oh, whoa. Yeah, no, it's and like when he's like, you know, when they're eating dinner, he's like, so tell me, when you were having sex with all these vampire women, it was like, whoa, you're at the dinner table, dog. Like, what are you doing? Like,
and then she goes to kiss, which is like, you know, it's temptation, right? Like it's the theme of temptation. But she goes to kiss Van Helsing, and he's about to do it, knowing full well that she's like partially infected.
Right.
Vampire. Yeah. And he's like, all right, if we're gonna do this, and then at the last second, he realizes her fangs are out. He's like, oh.
They go, wait a second here. Hold on, kid. But can you blame him?
No, but I'm just saying, like, it's really funny.
No, but for that character to be so autistic coded, and like very mission oriented.
This has never happened before. I guess I'm into it. Whoa, thanks.
Wait a second. I forgot what movie I'm in. This isn't Edward Scissorhands.
Usually,
technically, this is not.
I'm used to being
the
one
either.
I'm used to being the one that bites people. In this movie, I'm getting bitten. What's going on?
There it is, everybody. What? By the way, how have we not done Silence of the Lambs?
I know. We've said this several times.
Well, I said it right now, and
I love Silence of the Lambs. The lambs were not quiet in this one, though.
We have lambs at home. Have you seen Kim Newman mixing in Hyde Anno Dracula book Apocalypse Now with Dracula as a fictional film in the book? What? No. I don't know if I know what that means. So there's like
Like a
Well,
graphic
that reminds me of
novel?
like remember when they did like a Voyage of the Demeter as a movie, which is literally just like the passage from Dracula to America.
Yes.
Or not to America, to England.
Depends on what version you're doing.
Yeah. I mean, like it all. There's multiple layers, people.
Yeah. Still trying to think what Edward Scissorhands would be like if Gary Oldman had played Edward.
I love Edward Scissorhands. Of course,
Yes.
it's a cult classic. Nobody's arguing that. Like we
Yeah.
all agree. We all agree it's great. Like that's
Yeah.
like who would say it's bad? Probably some critic. Probably Roger Ebert.
Gary Oldman, but he's his character from True Romance, but he's also in.
he's Dracula, but he's got the dreads.
Yeah. But then him and Winona Ryder would work together and be like, yeah, they got a good chemistry. We could put them in Dracula together.
Yeah, there you go.
He's like, no, I'm not afraid of I'm not afraid of light. I'm not afraid of garlic. I'm afraid of my braids not being fucked up and nobody's being here to fix them for me.
Well, Queen Victoria.
So Tom Drum Newton says Anno Dracula is a series of books where Dracula wins and marries Queen Victoria. Fucking cool.
Finally.
That sounds great.
Can we let the villains win for once? I would like that.
No, thank you, George Lucas. We can't. You gotta. Oh, why don't you just cut off his head? What? What? My man.
You know what you say to that? Which one?
Right.
Which one? Which one do you kind of?
Got that BDE.
This is why Kristina wanted more women on this episode. By the way, shout out to Renee and KT, both who are sick and could not be on this episode. Man, we love them very much, and we're missing them.
Renee,
how you guys been doing? Okay.
By the way, BDE, Big Dracula Energy.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
What? That stands for something else?
Big dick energy,
You knew it as
baby.
the Alan Moore of Vampire.
How dare you, ma'am?
Big dad energy too. If you're Tim Waltz, so.
I really hope they don't start saying politicians at BDE. I want to burn the Democratic
They were
Party.
saying that about Trump supporters were saying that about Trump, so I was like, yeah.
Save for the
None of
after
them
party.
do. They all have small dicks. Get them out of here.
But not Gary Oldman though.
But yeah, shout out to KT and Renee, neither of which are feeling well, and we're both going to be on this episode, and we love them dearly, and would love to hear their takes on this. But of course, both of them will be on for the rest of the month for like the 70,000 more vampire movies we're doing. So
Yeah.
Dracula 1, Dracula 2, Dracula
2000.
Drac and Furious, you know.
Dracula 3, Back in the Habit.
Dracula X.
Two Drac, Two Furious, you know. Like
Two Drac. Exactly.
American Dracula X.
An American Dracula in London. Yeah.
No, American Dracula X. is one where
Dracula
gets
in
brutalized for being a neo-Nazi.
All right. Yeah. I mean, anything else you want to get to before we go to Letterboxd one-liners?
Nope.
This movie kicks ass. This movie. So this is the rare example where, like, and I guess I got to say this final thoughts, but I won't. Where like people are sort of like they have critiques of it. I'm like, yeah, and then people will be like, but it fucks though. And I'm like, no, it absolutely does. And like both things can be true at the same time.
Yeah.
But I honestly, this is the rare time where I'm like, you kind of had to be there. That like this was a cultural moment. This movie, like this was huge.
Yeah.
Huge.
It's where they invented the term raw dogging. With that, you know, that one.
Also, too, I remember there was this little TV show on like sci-fi, like I think it was Discovery Kids or whatever, called Truth or Scare, and Michelle Trachtenberg would narrate like a story about like the
Can't wait to see where this is going. By the way,
the
But go
Bell
ahead.
Witch.
Right.
She did one about Dracula,
like an anthology kind of show or something.
Yeah, she did one about Dracula, and of course they used all the safe for TV clips of Bram Stoker's Dracula,
of which there's like 1:45 seconds. Yeah.
like you know, some of the narrations like about Lucy or like explaining the whole story about Bram Stoker's Dracula. I'm like, oh, cool. I gotta see this movie.
It's just the scene where Keanu Reeves is in the train and Dracula, he's like the letter from Dracula, but they cut it right before he says, "Best regards, D." They're like, nope, cut that part out too.
Yeah. Well, so that's another thing that like this was still early 90s monoculture. It had cachet. Like people would do their like Dracula inspired like dream sequence episodes. You know, like it was common and it was something everybody knew.
That reminds me. Speaking of Buffy, remember Buffy had an episode of Dracula? Buffy the
Yes.
Vampire Slayer?
Yes,
And
absolutely.
you know what
Yeah,
was so interesting about that? They both were love interests on All My Children.
Oh, really?
Yep.
That's
That's
awesome.
why she was like, I want him. We have
All
good
my
chemistry.
children
Also,
of the night.
it was hot Dracula
Yeah, see,
too.
connect the dots, people. No, but I think that you have.
All my children of the night. Okay, Conan. See this? That was my segue.
There you go. There you go. That's good. No, but like it was, but it was like the ways that like people reference it would be like somebody's in a train and you see the eyes. Right, and it was like small little like visual cues because obviously you can't put like, hey, what if there was 3 hot broads and they were trying to bone Keanu Reeves? No, like that's you can't put that on like network television at that time. But
Hey,
like,
thank you HBO.
yeah, thank you HBO, I appreciate you. But it was crazy. Like and again, I'm gonna for the last time hammer home the point that like this was big as a big budget monoculture movie, but also something that like was a rare bone to the counterculture and for people that like were felt like alienated by like the things like Scent of a Woman and stuff like that. Like that's not for me. I don't give a crap about
It's crazy that like the budget was only $40 million for this, which is
it looks so good. Yeah. This movie looks so good.
And then on opening weekend, I guess word of mouth got out so fast that it made $32 million opening weekend. So it made 99% of. And then you look at Megalopolis or whatever and whatnot.
Which is like, flip that. Yeah, exactly.
Well, it's like the Agatha show. Like, the Agatha show is like the cheapest Marvel project yet because they're using a lot of practical effects for it and not to pay on CGI or AR or whatever the hell. And it shows that you can make a fantastic, visually stunning Marvel project without making it be $250 million or paying Robert Downey Jr. Over $100 million for, like, what, one movie?
For the star power. Well, and they did it as sets. They did practical effects. They did it all. They did it on a soundstage like you would a freaking, like it's the Mummy and Dracula, and they're hanging out and solving crimes, like whatever like movie you're doing. Oh my god,
we should do that as a pilot.
The Mummy and Dracula, but they're solving crimes. Mm-hmm. Okay. I call Dracula.
Well, people love like
Forrest can be the Mummy.
People love like Columbo or whatever, right?
It looks like there was foul play.
Well, like people love like whatever people love like Columbo kind of stuff, right? People also like Sherlock Holmes and that kind of duo kind of thing. So
actually,
you can have like a Dracula, Columbo like Dracula, but then add like the Mummy is like a Watson character to him.
So it's like Sherlock Holmes and Watson, but okay, all right.
And they got like a human that they don't, do anything to that helps them out too in the end.
Right, like the person in the chair, right?
Yes.
Yeah, this is good. This is good stuff.
And at the end,
we're storyboarding a TV pilot, guys.
Yeah, we're giving it away for free on the main show. What are we doing?
At the end, the person's sitting in the chair, and they're like, "So did you solve the crime?" And they're like, "Yes." And they go, "Another one solved."
And you just play it straight. You play it straight like a 70s like PI show, right? But they just happen to be like these eldritch characters.
Yeah.
I like it. It's good.
Let's do it.
All right, yeah, greenlit. Yeah.
If
only there was a character that could greenlight this film that could appear on stage.
We even stopped another. We stopped another murder this time, and Dracula got to eat.
Yeah, it's great. Everybody wins.
And Dracula didn't do
it. Where's Tom Selleck? A question that's asked more and more. I don't know.
Blue blood.
Where is he?
Red bloods.
Look, we do have fun here, but Letterboxd is a social media site for film lovers talk out with each other about the movies that they love, maybe the movies that they did not love, probably the movies they were desperately horny for and excited to talk on main about it over and over and over again. And of course, everybody gets to have their say. It's a bottom-up democracy, not just the Siskells and Eberts of the world. Everyone gets to chime and opine about all this stuff, and it's best expressed succinctly for the purposes of this bit where they are collected weekly by yours truly for us to put on screen and react to, laugh at, with, and for. And that's what this is. This is Letterboxd one-liners for Bram Stoker's Dracula. Let's roll it. Imagine being cucked by Dracula.
I have crossed oceans of time to cuck you.
It's good eye work, Kristina.
I never bang my own wife.
I never bang whores. Sorry. I'm sorry. It's terrible. It's a Frank Reynolds quote. I didn't write it.
I know.
God, what?
Who worries?
God, what's a girl got to do to be absolutely railed by a hot vampire Winona Ryder?
God, I hope she doesn't have a letterbox.
Oh my God, that would be.
Sorry, Josh.
Well, there's no DMs on Letterbox, so maybe. It'd
Yeah,
be okay.
You think it's gonna be hot vampire Winona Ryder, but it's the Wolfman, Gary Oldman Wolfman.
That's a good amount of railing himself. Yeah. Thank you, railing. Thank you, making Dracula look like some shitty.
The show is brought to you by railing.
Making Dracula look like some shitty early 2000s pickup artist somehow feels like the most correct way to portray the character.
And you're doing it wrong still.
Okay, only in the first part of the movie. He looked like I don't know. Like he's got a good look. It was the 90s. I was there. That was cool.
Mm-hmm.
Respect. Put some respect on Dracula's name. Freakula would be a more appropriate title. There we go. Freakula, everybody.
Why?
Bram Stoker's Freakula.
That is the Dracula porn parody. No, that's the Diddy parody.
Ugh. Francis Ford Coppola probably said, "Papa Titty or you're fired."
Papa Titty or you're fired. Let me see one of them.
Yeah, let's just go and make fun of rampant sexism on the set and harassment. But
I did not see any rampant sexism. I closed my eyes. I mean, I did not close my eyes.
Why does Francis Ford Coppola sound like Dracula?
But
I was being Dracula on the set of the thing, trying to cover up for Francis Ford Coppola, telling someone to pop a titty.
Tucker, a man in his dream.
Pop a titty right now.
Tetro is a movie I have made.
There's Dracula, the Bela Lugosi Dracula, where he has the hypnotic eyes, but what he says is "pop a titty," and then you see his eyes.
God damn it, Kristina, you're right. We did need more women on this episode.
Let me see just one.
Told you so.
I knew. I'm literally the one who suggested it. Anyway, Francis Ford Coppola said, "All right, freaks, you get one boob per scene, no more, no less."
Pop a titty right now. One titty.
Okay, now you sound like the count who counts on Sesame Street.
It's literally a number joke, right? So
yeah.
One.
So what makes sorry. I'm gonna go ahead and say that I'm a sucker for anytime somebody writes out a number and then paren puts the number in their Letterboxd review. I love that. That's a good shit.
Gotta be very specific.
That's how I read it. I read it like one
boob per scene. No more, no less.
One.
Good job. Shameful that only has 2 likes and one of them's me. But anyway.
If there were any more boobs, like somebody would have died in the early 90s. Like, I'm too horny.
I was there and you're not far off.
Like they're not ready for 2.
Did she just get fucked by smoke?
See that I had this thing, like I was thinking about this earlier, like, damn, you can't even trust your girl around green mist anymore. Like that, it might be like a vampire crossing the sand, the oceans of time to find her.
Yeah,
she liked that green mist though.
I'm not gonna lie, I did have that same thought when I saw this the first time.
Can't trust nothing. Can't even trust smoke.
It was like, wow, that's one way to do it. They done bit his peanuts.
So stupid.
It's so dumb, but it absolutely deserves more than 4 likes. That is peanuts, Peenits for the audio listeners.
They done bit his peanut.
God damn it. Oh, Renee, KT, we miss you.
Yeah.
Confirm watching this over and over as a kid made me gay and into blood play. Thank you, Francis, for your service.
That was the intention, I think.
Yeah, well,
it's like you know what we
advance
really
the cause.
You know what we really need to do to the kids today?
Make them gay and into blood play.
Yeah.
Check and check. Those are the letter. That's the one it ended on. Huh? Okay, those are the Letterboxd one-liners for Bram Stoker's Dracula. And you can find this movie, as well as all the other movies that we cover on this show, on our Letterboxd HQ account at Movie Night Extravaganza, where you can get all the bonus content, clips, and short form stuff, as well as all of the writings and highlights from the show. For that and so much more, please follow us on there. The Oceans of Time streamer over there. Oh my God, this is really difficult. Always Flacco. He's covering all the stuff we do in this show and lots of other attendant materials. He's putting in the work for Vampire Month. He's sucking that blood.
Listen, I don't want to suck, so I'm here to get.
You're here to fuck, not suck.
I don't go.
Who's fucking? Who's sucking? Welcome to Dracula's castle.
We're really good. Nice and prepped for the after party.
I don't go on streams that suck.
But I do go on ones that fuck.
That's 100% the after party.
As a two-headed Dracula. Like
it's like inside you are two Draculas. All right, whatever. At Conan Neutron, that's me. I've crossed oceans of time to find you. You can find me on Letterboxd easily at Conan Neutron, doing the Criterion Challenge, film school dropouts, highbrow, midbrow, populist fare, all that stuff. Follow me along for all that. I've been kind of diving deep as well. I've been revisiting a lot of movies in this genre because I think it's kind of nice to like get a full rendering of the whole thing, right? Like, and that's the good, bad, and the ugly.
So you're going through the history,
which we've also never covered. Crazy, but we're going through the history of as far as dudes looking hard at each other for 10 minutes at a time. One of the greatest films of all time.
I never look hard.
God damn it. Kristina over there, Keanu Reeves accent. I don't even know. It's this way, it's that way. I don't know what it's whatever. You know what it is. She's over there. She's
You're practically the same person.
I'm her shoulder.
Yeah.
My shoulder, right or wrong.
Adam, Kristina, I think you've logged more movies for this theme so far than you have for most of the year.
I mean, I logged Abigail when I first watched it. I logged in Joker 2. I logged in Bram Stoker's Dracula. I did Nosferatu.
Yeah. Well, and speaking of Joker 2, after party, you're going to give us your initial thoughts because you've seen it.
Yeah.
And of course, please follow KT Balsaro at Movie Runtime. She's all over Letterboxd, and our good friend Renee Ruin, who, don't worry, she will be on at least one other. She's going to be on What We Do in the Shadows.
Yep.
Later in the month with her partner and my friend Bonnie Burton from The Night Shift.
Goofy vampires.
Exactly. It was either that or Dead and Loving It, and we decided on What We Do in the Shadows. So
yeah.
So that is those are all the Letterboxd stuff. Let's hit the plugs and do some fun thoughts.
Yeah, I came up with a porn name for this movie.
Oh,
Bram,
thank God.
I kept the
Bram Stoker, Stroker's Dracula.
Oh, fuck! I should have said Strokers. I was gonna say Ram Pokers. But
this is why we work well as a team. That's why.
If you're watching us on YouTube, please like and subscribe, and then hit the bell to get notified whenever we're streaming. And we'd humbly request that you watch the video to the end because it helps us with the algorithm and helps more film fans to discover the show. We're also monetized. If you want to get your chat questions definitely read on stream, you can always send us a super chat, which will help us keep the show going. Every cent helps. If you're watching on Twitch, you can gift us a free sub on Amazon Prime with your Prime membership, but getting subs on Twitch is always appreciated, and it helps to follow us on there as well. We also have an audio feed, which is available wherever you download podcasts, if you prefer to listen to podcasts rather than watch the stream. That's updated usually the same day we stream, but watching on YouTube and Twitch is the best way to get the show first, live as it happens. If you want to support us with a monthly donation and get access to all of our after parties forever, which go patron only after we do them, you can become a patron at patreon.com/movie night extra. Link is in the description for that. It really helps us keep the show going since we do have some expenses to make this happen. We also have a Discord community. Link is in the description for that. We sometimes watch movies we cover on there. We get into conversations about everything from film to TV shows to related podcasts. We even have a Discord channel for memes. It's really fun on there. You can find us on all the social media platforms: Facebook, Instagram, Blue Sky, Twitter, and Threads. You connect with us on all of those. Talk to us. We'd love to hear from you. Lastly, we recently made a TikTok at Movie Night Extra where we're putting up short form clips from the episodes. Okay, passing this to Conan so he can tell you about his music and this week's Protonic Reversal. Conan, who's on Protonic this week?
Yeah, this week's Protonic Reversals, plural. I had Austin and Reagan from Chowpile on yesterday, and that was a great episode. We talked about their new record. Their record is called Cool World, by the way. We talked about Cool World and Roger Rabbit, amongst many others. Of course, movies came up as well, but that is in the patron-only queue right now, $1 a month, patreon.com/Protonic Reversal. And that's a great discussion.
Crazy amount of them like queued up. It's crazy.
Oh my God, it's so many. It's too many, frankly. So I'm talking to Freddie from Thank tomorrow on Saturday for a weekend edition, Protonic Reversal. And then Carl from Cal Marx coming on Monday to talk about their new record, which is great. It's really good. I mean, Cal Marx is very consistent for me. But yeah, doing a lot of podcasting. I'm back at it with a vengeance. So if you want to hit that Patreon, a lot of people have. A lot of new patrons, and I appreciate that. Patreon.com/Protonic Reversal, $1 a month for that. It's Bandcamp Friday. You want to buy my music? It's a great day to do it. I also put up the blue Death is Coming, Eat Trash, Be Free Raccoon t-shirts, which people have been asking for a very long time. They're very popular on the West Coast, so pick those up. NeutronFriends.bandcamp.com. We're playing Detroit on Friday with Godbillies for the record release. Amino Acid and Salvation should be a huge show, so if you're remotely in the Detroit area, you should go to that. I think that's it. We got a bunch of stuff in November, but other than that, I'm just on this show and just doing 100,000 Protonics.
This is my impression of Dracula telling you that they only listen to your podcast. He only listens to your podcast. He doesn't watch it. I never watch live.
All right. Respect. That was good. Good.
All right.
That was good. There's a lot going on Protonic Reversal, and it's all good. The Boonwell episode, which is a band named after the Surrealist director featuring Eugene Robinson, is going live to the general feed on Monday. And there's some stuff I literally can't say anything about it. It's embargoed, but there's a bunch of really cool stuff coming up. So if you're into music, I don't know what to fucking tell you. Like, go pay attention to the show, I guess. I don't know.
I mean,
Kristina. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's as much as it sounds like a dismissive dock worker. Yeah.
If you like music, I don't know what the fuck to tell you. Just go listen.
Let's go fucking watch it. I don't know. I mean, the Chat Pile episode is gonna do pretty well, I feel, because
that's a point where there's actually crossover.
Right, and Reagan's totally down to come. We both talk trash on Long Legs on that episode. It's great. It's not good. Sorry. Peace and love. Kristina, what do you got going on?
Well, I was supposed to cosplay this weekend, but Joker 2 ain't doing too good at my local theater, so I'm gonna be streaming. Tomorrow is Shadow Saturday, so that should be fun.
The aforementioned Dark Shadows. You've been going through the series. I've missed.
We're finally in color. Maggie is found alive, and will she reveal that Barabbas kidnapped her and try to brainwash her to make her into Josette?
Somebody asked if we were going to cover the Dark Shadows movie on this show, and I said absolutely not.
No.
Not in this man's army. No. It's bad.
Ew. No.
Not
yeah,
great.
then Sunday Fun Day, so... But I'm still cosplaying for most of the month, so...
Well,
you'd think that
great.
You'd think that if the movie's not doing too good, they'd want you to go cosplay. They'd be like, yeah, go outside. Tell people to come on in here.
So this is the second time I'm going to mention that on the after party tonight, which we are absolutely doing, Core 3, Kristina's going to give her take on the movie because she has
Joker 2, foie gras. No, I don't know.
Delicious.
I called the after party the Devil's Concubine after party.
Good.
Yeah, that was my name for it.
Anything else going on, Kristina?
In a week it's my birthday, October 11th.
That's right.
I plan on doing like a multi-day snubathon probably on Friday, so that should be fun.
Well, I am glad you were alive, and I'm glad to know you.
Yeah, I'm glad to be. I don't look like I'm turning 31.
No, you look like you're turning 21.
Millennials be taking good care of their skin. Gen Z don't know what went wrong there. No offense.
I look better than a lot of Gen Z people.
Stop it.
You're not technically.
No, I
Forrest,
said
you're
I
born-
want Gen Z. No, I said I want Gen Z people to listen to the podcast.
Oh, okay, cool.
Let's tell them they look haggard. Yeah, y'all look terrible.
Hey, they agree though.
Except for viewers of this show who are fantastic.
Yeah, if you watch the show, it'll make your skin better.
In fact, if you contribute to the Patreon, you look lovely tonight.
Yeah, it's a de-aging Patreon.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. It's
Probably show the full fit in
crazy.
the after party too.
What?
My full fit
Oh, okay.
in the after party.
Well, I thought you were gonna pop a titty. No, I'm just kidding.
Look, Coppola's not on this set.
Yeah, also I think I have PowerPoint. Oh, thank you. I think I'm doing PowerPoint next Thursday too, so that'll be like the eve of my birthday, I think. Because Dan did one solo, so
Dan
who
will probably have you on for so long that it will be your birthday by the end of it.
Yeah.
3 hours.
Yeah, I mean, how did that VP debate go? Was that good?
They were very civil towards each other, and I hated that.
And I hated that.
Yes.
Yeah, more shout outs to Kristina.
Thank you.
Everyone loves Kristina. I also want.
We got to start doing the JD Vance though. Whenever somebody snap corrects, hey, you know,
I was told there would be no fact check. That's up there with I have a concept of a plan, which is like wow, amazing. That's.
It's like, wow, you admit that you were lying. Cool.
I have no notes. Fantastic. Let's give a shout out to what if I don't like it with KT, our beloved co-host, which of course this week's guest is Forrest, host of this show, and it's fantastic. It's I listened to it. It's great.
About Keanu Reeves performance
Point Break,
entirely on the opposite spectrum of
yes.
performance.
In the comments of one of the many things it was on, I think Lauren Chenard mentioned that she wanted to do Point Break. I was like, let's do Point Break. I'm ready. Let's fucking do it, man. I'm
ready to surf. Let me get my board.
Yeah, today is Dan's last surfing day, apparently. So shout out to Dan from the web.
For surfing?
He's last surfing?
He surfs. Yeah,
he's surfing the web
in California.
I'm sure he does. I don't know. I wasn't aware. I don't keep up on his activities. But I would like to have him on again sometime. But anyway, yeah, Kristina, your birthday is coming up. So people should sub to your channel if they don't already.
Yes, and I got my dono link on my Twitch as well. So,
It's Subtober. If you're not subbing their channel, what the fuck you?
Yeah, there we go. I'm surprised I didn't think about that too for Twitch, but whatever.
They should do every month as one. It's September. Why are you not subbing? It's sub.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. So let's wrap this up and get to the after party because we're already in an after party state of mind.
Yes. I'm in an after. Wait, let me just after party.
Yeah. Just pop that first button. Exactly. Yeah. I thought those were bats for a second. I remember it was the Weezer logo, which was fine.
Yeah.
But I just thought you were just committing to the bit that hard.
You change your tattoos. I came on one day and I have just like a movie like a tattoo, and I'm like, "What do you guys think? Movie Extravaganza."
Damn, that's a flex.
But yeah, let's
bold move, Cotton.
Conan, I guess I'll start with you. Final thoughts? Anything you wanted to?
What? I'm always last. Why am I first now? Because it's Kristin's birthday.
I was just going this way.
All right, whatever. It's fine.
Wait, this.
It's fine, I don't care. Like I said, it's a generationally defining vampire story, and the production design on this one is absolutely incredible, top to bottom. I love that it focuses on Vlad Tepes's past in the first 10 minutes of the movie without being an exposition jump, and you get the entire background and motivation with a really cool stabbing the cross scene. But the key here is the love story, and that's what Coppola brought to the genre and the character, as well as being one of the most horny major motion pictures in a very, very long time. I've grown to appreciate Keanu Reeves a lot as an actor. I still don't think he's on the same level as everyone else is happening here, but I don't mind it. I think this movie is really great, and I think it holds up big time. And I think one of the reasons it holds up is because all of the usage of the not only practical effects, but like old school, like 1920s, like Universal horror movie type effects. And I think it's actually underrated amongst Coppola's movies. which is crazy because it was a huge hit. But like again, we're talking about someone who made The Godfather and like Apocalypse Now, and, and so on and so on. And I think it was a huge swing that connected.
I feel like we got to like stop expecting that, you know, just because an actor's in a lot of things and they're really good in some of them, that they're going to be good in everything. Like Keanu Reeves is really good in something like Point Break or like The Matrix or something like that. But like,
or River's Edge.
Yeah,
or Bill and Ted, right?
There's so many roles that he does well, but maybe just don't have him be like a Gothic era British man.
Honestly, you know what movies he's good in? Knock Knock, which should have just been called Father's Day. It's not a great movie, but he's great in it.
Yeah.
I mean,
he's also the great Bill. Like he's, you know, Bill and Ted is a fucking great movie. Watched that as a kid and I enjoyed it.
I absolutely. And Alex Winter should come on the show first of all, but like is great in that too.
JG's had him on a bunch.
I should come on this show. This show's better.
Yeah. I'm just saying that. I'm saying that's a connection.
By the way, JG Michael coming up later this month
for Abigail, my second favorite vampire movie of all time.
But Kristina, final thoughts.
Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, this is my favorite vampire movie of all time. I mean, what's not to love? It's got amazing set design, amazing practical effects, some good performances, one not so great. Yeah, there was a lot of drama behind the scenes, but look what was made in the end, you know? So I always recommend Bram Stoker's Dracula as like that or Nosferatu, like the first, like if you're going to want to watch your first vampire film, it's got to be one of these.
All right.
I agree. I think we chose wisely as this being the second one. Like I think this is I feel really good about all of these movies.
This would be so much funnier if this would be really funny if everything's the same, but it's Klaus Kinski's Nosferatu.
Like he's ever got the glasses?
Yeah.
He's got the fit, but it's Klaus Kinski with those big ass rat teeth.
And on that note,
if you like that for some reason, catch us in that after party.
Oh,
sorry,
you like
Christina.
that? You like that? You like?
Yeah.
But and by the way, to all our Gen Z listeners, I'm sorry, your skin looks great.